I now call the January 12th, 2026 meeting of the Mount Pleasant City Commission to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes.
The Mount Pleasant City Commission recognized the Anishinaabe, whose ancestral lands the city stands upon today. We acknowledge the Saginaw Chippewa Indian tribe and recognize that the three bands of Ojibwe, Saginaw, Black River, and Swan Creek have resided on this land for over 200 years. Our acknowledgement of the full history of the tribe and our commitment to be good stewards of these ancestral lands is an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those ancestors who came before us. We give thanks to the generous care with which the Anishinaabe and whose member of the Saginaw Chippewa Indian tribe of Michigan have given and continue to give this land and our community. I'll now take the roll. Commissioner Alsager? Here. Commissioner Perschebacker? Here. Commissioner Rollins?
Here.
Commissioner Skilitsky?
Here.
Vice Mayor, Commissioner Eke?
Yes.
Commissioner Wingard?
Here.
We have a quorum. Our first item of business is to elect the mayor for the 2026 calendar year. Nominations are now open for the position for mayor for the 2026 calendar year.
I nominate Boomer Wingard.
Any other nominations?
I would like to nominate Maureen Eke for vice mayor.
That will be after.
Sorry,
Yep.
sorry, apologies.
So nominations are now closed for the mayor for the 2026 calendar year. All in favor of appointing Commissioner Wingard as mayor for the 2026 calendar year, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Congratulations, Mayor.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll turn over the meeting for you to elect the vice mayor.
I would like to nominate Maureen Eke for vice mayor.
As nominations are now open, there's been a nomination for the vice mayor of Maureen
Ahead
Eke.
of ourselves really quick.
Are there any other nominations for vice mayor at this time? Are there any other nominations? Okay, at this time, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of appointing Commissioner Maureen Eke as vice mayor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Congratulations, Vice Mayor. Okay, that'll move us. Next item of business this evening is to set time and day of regular meetings. Manager DeSense, if you could just give us a brief overview, if there's been any changes or anything.
No changes are proposed, but the city commission does retain the right to set its regular meeting schedule. Traditionally, the meeting schedule has been the second and fourth Mondays of the month at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Are there any changes that members of the commission would like to propose to the schedule as presented? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the schedule as presented?
Time that we approve the schedule of the city commission's meeting as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Vice Mayor Eke, seconded by Commissioner Alsager to approve the agenda as schedule as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay, that will bring us into proclamations and presentations this evening. First up is a proclamation in support of Peacemaking Recognition Day, January 19th, 2026. Let's see, is the proclamation up at the dais here? Is it?
My apologies, Mayor. There should be one there for you, but we do have one in the packet. If you would like to, I can offer you my laptop if you would like to read it.
I would appreciate the laptop there, yeah. Let's see. Whereas peacemaking is an action, activity, event, or way of life which reduces or leads to a reduction of violence and contributes to a more cooperative and just way in which we live together. And whereas peacemaking is a lifelong process that begins with ourselves. And whereas we live in a time when violence, hatred, and crime dominate the public media, and these attitudes are pervasive in ours and our children's worldview through television, movies, toys, popular music, videos, and video games. And whereas we would all prefer to live in peace in our physical and social environments in a way which honors and respects others and their differences as well as ourselves. And whereas our youth have an inherent idealism to make this a better community, country, and world in which to live. Now, therefore, I, Mayor of the City of Mount Pleasant, do hereby proclaim January 19th, 2026, Peacemaking Recognition Day in Mount Pleasant, and affirm that the peacemaking efforts of its youth are valued and appreciated, and that these efforts contribute significantly to the quality of life in Mount Pleasant. And further, the City Commission supports the nonviolent resolution of misunderstandings and conflicts whenever and however they occur, as demonstrated by the life of Martin Luther King Jr. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand in the Great Seal of the City of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, this 12th day of January, 2026. That brings us to our next item in proclamations and presentations. We are going to introduce and swear in Mount Pleasant Police Officer Joe Ferry by Assistant Chief of Police Brandon Bliss.
Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing our newest police officer, Joe Ferry. Before I swear Officer Ferry in, I'd like to say just a little bit about him. Officer Ferry is a graduate of Lansing Community College with an associate's degree in corrections. He started his career as a corrections officer in 2004 and spent 14 years in corrections before attending the Delta Police Academy in 2018. That gives Officer Ferry approximately 7 years of police service. During that time, he was a field training officer. He was an emergency services team member and a firearms instructor. The Mount Pleasant Police Department has worked closely with Officer Ferry for the past 7 years, and we are excited to have him in our area and work alongside him. I think his varied experience and commitment to law enforcement will serve our community very well. Very excited to have Officer Ferry. All right, Officer Ferry, if you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joe Ferry, do solemnly swear
I, Joe Ferry, do solemnly swear
that I will support, defend, and uphold
that I will support, defend, and uphold
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the laws of the state of Michigan,
the laws of the state of Michigan,
and the ordinances of the city of Mount Pleasant,
and the ordinances of the city of Mount Pleasant,
to the best of my abilities.
to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations, Joe.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I've been here since 2009, moved up here, and my wife and I have made Mount Pleasant our home, and we're raising our family here. I look forward to serving the community, doing the best. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item this evening, we have a presentation on 2026 goals and objectives by City Manager Aaron DeSense.
All right, good evening, City Commission. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my spreadsheet started here. A couple of different spreadsheets I'm gonna be going through tonight, but I will go over 2025 goals and objectives just to highlight those that were completed, those that were not in 2025, and then that'll tee us up for a presentation on our 2026 goals and objectives. So first up, for our 2025 goals and objectives, and I will dive right in, our first goal was to ensure that all city departments consistently meet established service standards and benchmarks to provide efficient and effective services to residents and visitors. We had set a number of different benchmarks for the organization, and so I do have a spreadsheet on those benchmarks. Final reporting is in obviously for Q4, and I'll just go over those now. Average emergency response time for public safety, we saw that hover at right around 4.5 minutes, seemed to be about the average time throughout the year, though you can see just a slight amount of variability between different quarters. The total written complaints, and these are the total number of written reports based on our calls for service, that goes between about 737 in Q1 and then peaks in Q3 at 828, and then came back down a little bit lower in Q4 at 806. And then complaints for per number of calls for service. Each quarter, we did well over 3,000 calls for service, and you will see that in Q4, there was one complaint that had come in essentially about that service that was rendered. When it comes to public works, we had track meters rotated, and this was a big project from last year. If you recall, we had partnered with a third-party consultant to install a number of different water meters that are satellite reads. So we no longer have to continue going from home to home and recording water usage. That way we're able to upload those reads utilizing satellites. And so you'll see in Q2 and 3, significant amount of work, well over, I think it was our total number, well over 1,000 meters that were installed in 2025, and we'll continue this project. This was a project that we had anticipated on a 3 to 5 year timeline in order to get the entire city converted over to satellite reads. Signs replaced within our street department. You'll just see the numbers there spanning anywhere from 5 to 18 in Q2, and then it started to taper off after that. Street sweeping hours, significant amount of time in Q2 and Q3. Obviously, that's the time to be sweeping streets when the weather is good, but when the weather is as it is now, we have snow everywhere, not a good time to run our street sweeper. But we do still have, we still use it in those quarters on some of the days that we can make it through to collect debris. Sewer backups, we have the reporting there, 10 in Q1 all the way down to 4 in Q4. Trees serviced, you see a significant amount of work that was done in Q2 that I know the gentleman who work over in Public Works had worked on. And so all of the numbers are there, and obviously that just tapers off as the weather gets worse and as our guys start to focus on other things like leaves and snow removal. Valves turned, you see a significant amount both in Q1 and in Q3 and 4. Some of our focus for Q2, just based on the numbers here, were likely on our meters rotated. So you saw more meters being rotated in Q2 and less valves being worked at that time. And then you see chemical cost per millions gallon treated at our water treatment plant. That will show anywhere from $327 and change all the way going up to $409 in Q4. And then kilowatt hours per million gallons treated. You see a low end in Q1 of about 1,500 going up to 2,800 in Q3 before it tapers back down in Q4. So this is the first time we really started to put this information into a spreadsheet like this and take a look at it. So it's pretty interesting to see this. I think internally we'll continue to utilize something like this where we're able to track these numbers here and start to see if this helps to make any more informed decisions into the future. And then, of course, in the finance division, we had material findings that are reported in the audit. This was reported in Q2 of 2025. We had 3 material findings with staff, which staff has been working on throughout the year. MGFOA award received. We just checked that off that we had received that in March of 2025. This is the Michigan Government Finance Officers Association Award for financial reporting that we receive on an annual basis, and the city's been a longtime recipient of this award. Total transactions processed. This is something we wanted to gather at the start of the year, but it is a little bit tricky as we tried to define transactions as both utility billing and taxes. But there's obviously a large number of transactions that come through the organization in a given year. It opened up further conversation mid-year about, well, should we be tracking other transactions? So it's something that we decided to scrap and just say, I think we need to break this down further. And maybe what we need to do is on a department or on a service basis, maybe we track transactions for taxes specifically in a quarter. So there's just something, we wanted to do this different. We just felt that trying to put that together in this format didn't really tell us what we were looking for. So I think it'll be back to the drawing board with that metric. So we'll make some changes to that. Any questions on our metrics or anything like that?
I have one.
Yeah.
Okay, so the chemical cost, million gallons treated. I noticed that the cost went up. Is it the cost of the chemicals or but the amount treated sort of dropped?
Yeah, I do know that we had an increase in chemical cost in certain areas. Was that the primary factor, Director Moore?
I suspected.
We did have a change in chemical costs at the beginning of the year there. But you also have a lot more pumping in the summer and a lot less in the winter. And so you've got some, scale issues there where, it just costs a little bit more. We also had, and both the water and wastewater side of things, we're having a lot of changes happening, and so there was a period of time there, I think it was the fourth quarter, where we had to shut down the Ranny well so that we could do some testing to see how much improvement we could get there.
Okay.
And so that's going to raise the price because that's a little bit harsher water that needs more treatment. So,
Makes sense. Did you change chemicals?
we're using the same chemicals, we just use different amounts depending on the quality of the water, so. Yep.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Right, if there's no further questions, I will jump back to the 2025 goals and objectives and move through here. Implement recommendations from the fire study to optimize fire service delivery, enhance emergency response capabilities, and improve overall fire safety within the community. So known issues to report as of last year, a significant amount of last year. One, we had developed that plan early, so that was in Q1. Throughout 2025, obviously we brought on a number of new firefighters, and so staff's time was significantly spent focusing on the training of those new firefighters. We have a number of goals and objectives for 2026 and beyond that we'll continue working on in the future. One of the other goals that I will note of the fire study was significant changes to our fleet. We're able to look at that and determine that we could save significant amounts of money by paring our fleet down and going with combination trucks. For those of the city commissioners that remember that conversation, which is why we had ordered combination trucks for our future truck replacements. So that is moving forward. We do have an apparatus that will be going up for sale here as part of that paring down of the fleet. Prioritize proactive maintenance and infrastructure upgrades to ensure reliable operation of the water distribution system, minimizing disruptions and ensuring access to clean and safe water for all residents. We're moving forward with our DWSRF Phase 1 project, and that is currently taking place at the water treatment plant. You may recall that's about a $10 million contract, and then a second phase is actually going to be discussed this evening. Regularly inspect, repair, and maintain roads and sidewalks throughout the city to enhance safety, accessibility, and mobility for all users. We had PACER ratings completed for roads and sidewalks in Q3. And it was, I should note, PACER ratings for sidewalks was partially done prior to being covered with leaves in the fall. And so any areas where we don't have PACER ratings, we'll certainly grab those in 2026 to maintain those records. Implement comprehensive asset management practices to effectively maintain cemetery facilities and grounds. So when we started in 2025, we were looking at an asset management software platform for our cemetery. And unfortunately, after using that system, we determined that it was not going to be a good system for what our needs were. We had then pivoted at that point in mid-2025 and moved forward with a new software, which is Pontum. Pontum is a much more user-friendly software. It allows much more access of information for individuals who want to consider purchasing plots on the cemetery, doing any kind of research and those kind of things. So we ended up pivoting and moving forward with that. Obviously, we still have an asset management policy that was developed in 2024, and we continue to use that as the basis for determination or decision-making, I should say, when looking at various assets that we are either replacing or onboarding within the organization. Next up, promote professional development, implement targeted recruitment strategies to attract, select highly qualified candidates who possess the skills, qualification, and values necessary to excel in their respective roles within the organization. Each quarter within this report, we had developed different statistics. And so our year-end statistics include 45 seasonals that were onboarded, 26 peak individuals, 5 interns, 18 full-time positions, 2 part-time, 8 recreation assistants, 4 water meter readers, 1 board of review individual, and 2 city commissioners. Develop comprehensive onboarding and training programs for new hires to ensure they receive the necessary knowledge, skills, and resources to perform their duties effectively and integrate seamlessly into the roles and within the organization. We looked at a number of different learning modules, and I know I've talked with the City Commission about this in the past. There are certain programs that they're either proprietary to the City of Mount Pleasant, or there's certain programs that are mainly geared towards municipal use, but each municipality uses them differently. And so there's a lot of training maybe out there for some of these programs, but they don't really fit how the city uses them. What we wanted to do was internally develop new training methods for onboarding new individuals to how to use those. Formerly, it used to be a department head or even a division director would have to take someone through some of these different programs or processes. Now we've developed both written and video resources for individuals who come on board. So in that way, they can go to those resources. This creates continuity in the training that is provided to new individuals, but it also creates a resource that individuals can go back to where one did not exist. So if someone needed to brush up on certain skills or those kind of things, that information is available to everyone throughout the organization. Build leadership development programs to identify, nurture, and cultivate emerging leaders within the organization, fostering continuity and succession planning to ensure a strong and capable leadership pipeline to the future. So again, coming back to that learning center, there were certain things in there that were specific to leaders only. So we had things such as dealing with difficult individuals or having difficult conversations with coworkers and those kind of things. There were certain supervisory tasks that are also taught and recorded in those trainings as well. So we'll continue building this up throughout the year, but just a few things to note. There are a total of 10 skill development courses within what we call the Mount Pleasant Learning Center. 20 different resources, and so far to date, 21 people have reviewed the resources. Assessments will be done throughout 2026 to gauge the success and see if this training was indeed met the needs that we have. Address community needs, implement initiatives to enhance refuse and recycling services. Obviously, 2025 was our first year of the new trash and recycling services, and we did not have any issues to report as of Q4 2025. Deploy smart meter technology to enhance service delivery, including real-time monitoring of utility usage, identifying opportunities for energy efficiency and conservation, and providing residents with tools and resources to better understand and manage their utility consumption. So again, those that receive these satellite readers are actually able to sign up for an account online where they can monitor in real time the water usage that is going through their meter. That way they can make more informed decisions about, what kind of appliances that they may have or how they want to use their water. Maybe they want to set personal goals or things like that. All of that information is available to the customer in real time when they have these. So again, staff reported nearly about 1,000 meters that were changed out in 2025. Lastly, develop and implement outreach programs to increase citizen engagement and education on key community issues. We issued a survey to citizens related to communications from the city that is to help us improve internally. So this was trying to look at what is the format that folks like to receive their information in? Is it predominantly social media driven, which was interesting to see. And it somewhat matched some of the feedback that we had received from our recreation plan. If you recall that what's interesting is most folks tend to go to Facebook. And I think that just happens to be a very fast, quick resource. And there's an algorithm behind it to help gauge the kind of content that they'd be interested in viewing. So that seems to be the #1 resource, but we still have a lot of traffic that is driven towards our website and some of the other methods that we communicate with folks. Implement strategic planning, conduct a thorough assessment of the city's motor pool operations to identify areas of improvement such as optimizing vehicle usage, reducing maintenance costs, and implementing fuel-efficient, environmentally friendly practices to enhance the efficiency and sustainability of the city's fleet management. So we ended up replacing 3 trucks in Q4 of 2025. We also have more trucks that we replaced in 2026. After the first of the year, and the dealer is honoring the price for the 2025. So we think we're doing this as obviously as responsibly and efficiently as we possibly can. Some of you may recall we used to have a really good deal with one of the dealerships in town where we I don't want to say lease the vehicles, but we're able to buy them at the MI deal rate, and we're able to change them in at a very close value on a yearly basis, very reliably. So we always had new trucks within the system, and this cost a fraction, obviously, of what individuals would pay as consumers at any of these dealerships. Sadly, due to just kind of how business is done, we were not able to maintain that. So now what we do is typically we buy these vehicles and hold on to them longer. Again, we purchase them at a very great rate. We get the same rate that the state gets, which is, again, significantly lower than any of us could transact for these vehicles, and we're able to sell them back. So it's still a really great deal, but it's just the new reality of how we have to do business with our motor pool. Develop and implement a wellhead protection plan ordinance to safeguard the city's drinking water resources from contamination. I noted finished here, but one thing I will note is that we had done a resolution rather than ordinance in 2025, as staff felt that that would be a more appropriate way. Collaborate with key stakeholders to develop and implement a comprehensive economic development plan that identifies strategic priorities, opportunities for growth initiatives to attract investment, create jobs, and foster economic prosperity. This is the one yellow that I have on the sheet. And for those of you that recall, green indicates that the goal has been completed. Yellow indicates that it is still in progress. And red, and we didn't have any in red, indicate a goal that had reach some sort of a significant blockage to where we could no longer move forward with that goal. This one we're still going to be working on. And the primary thing is this: a lot of economic development plans are sort of generic. And what I wanted to do was something that was a little bit more prescriptive. What I had envisioned with this plan was to be able to come back and identify underutilized properties within the city, identify the economic development tool that would best suit that, whether that's an incentive, whether that's enhanced marking, whatever, and then put that directly into the plan and carry those things out. That way, because we get this all the time at City Hall, where someone who is a inquisitive developer might call us up and say, hey, I'm interested in a particular property. Maybe they give us the address and they state, so what kind of incentives can I get here? And rather than just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall, what I wanted to do was be very pinpointed in the right incentive for the right sort of property. And so there's a bit of philosophy to that. This is taking a little bit longer to flesh out, but that's currently what I'm working with the city staff on. I just want to make sure that this thing was, it really was as good of a product as can possibly hand it over to the city commission for final approval. Enhance financial management, review the creation of a dedicated grant writing program within the city to systematically identify, pursue, and secure grant opportunities from various sources. We actually did that in December of 2024. 2025 was a very successful year for our grant coordinator. And I think she's been doing a fantastic job working through the CHILL grant. She was able to bring in extra money for a fire pit down at Town Center. And then also, I know I had updated the city commission about an upcoming grant from the state of Michigan that they're still working on that press release. So I'm not going to talk about the particulars of that this evening, but certainly as soon as that is available, I'll be shouting it through the rooftops. Actively seek out and apply for grants from various sources to supplement the city's budget, fund critical projects and initiatives, and reduce reliance on taxpayer funds. Quarter four, we had quarterly updates for this, just like the hiring. Quarter four, we had a total of 3 applied for in quarter four and 3 awarded in quarter four, actively managing 6 at that time. And the grant the grant coordinator, I should say, also supplies quarterly reports, just talking about the various projects that she's been working on. And so 4 quarterly reports were also given as well. Conduct a comprehensive review of accounting policies and administrative procedures to ensure alignment with regulatory requirements and best practices. We reviewed a number of different internal financial policies. And so throughout 2025, in particular, there were 2 that we had reviewed. We had determined that 1 was good, so we maintained that policy going forward, and 1 was changed. We'll continue looking at those in 2026 as we're starting to realize there's quite a bit of these that we need to look at updating in the future. Let's see, and then evaluate utility billing fees and policies to ensure sufficient funding is in place to protect public health and maintain critical infrastructure while working to keep our rates as affordable as possible. Well, noted here, a number of different changes made to rate structure, as you recall, for the proposed 2026 and now adopted 2026 fiscal year operating budget. We did make those changes based on the new debt service that is in the water fund, as well as a cost of living or not really a cost of living, a cost of doing business adjustment, if you will, of 3% in the wastewater fund. So that is 2025 goals and objectives in a nutshell. Any questions on any of this before I move forward to 2026?
I have one.
Mhm.
Your yellow.
My yellow one.
Yes.
Economic development.
Mhm. Yeah, so what's your obstacle?
Mostly it's been time and focus. In 2025, we had some projects that had come up which we had not initially anticipated. And so some of staff's time was diverted towards those particular projects and making sure that those things were done in 2025. So it got pushed back by that. And again, some of this too is just getting different eyes and ideas on this. I will obviously have an idea and a philosophy of what the appropriate incentive might be for a particular property. But when we open that conversation up more broadly, whether it's with MMDC, whether it's with our planning and community development director, we have some different ideas. I don't want my own personal biases to drive that decision-making process as well. So I want to bring more stakeholders in on that too. And that's just adding to the time.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Excellent. All right. Let's talk about 2026. So we have some lofty goals in 2026, and I will run through those. Proactively plan and implement infrastructure upgrades and pursue grants to support capital improvement projects. In here, we noted DWSRF Phase 1 construction and our Franklin Street reconstruction. Those are 2 significant projects that we have going on in 2026. We anticipate all of that should be completed by the year end, and we have that assigned to our Public Works Division Director. Implement the transition to cellular read water meters to improve efficiency and service. Obviously, we'll continue this going forward. And as I had mentioned to the City Commission, this will be a multi-year project. So we'll look to repeat the successes of 2025 and 2026. Explore redevelopment or other opportunities for the former Mount Pleasant Center property. Our goal here is to hold a work session to discuss some of the possible opportunities for that property. I would anticipate, and I had noted anticipated completion by Q4 of 2026, not entirely knowing when we might have that meeting. I do anticipate, and I would like to propose to the City Commission a meeting in the Q1 of 2026. I know I've sent just some preliminary emails to the City Commission on different ideas that I have regarding this, and just understanding that this could create lead time because obviously we have a partner that we're talking about with regard to the future of that property, or a potential partner that could create lead time. So I just wanted to have the conversation sooner than later, just in case action items to follow take us through 2026. Assess appropriate zoning of vacant land at Broomfield and Crawford Roads. Conduct a joint meeting with the Planning Commission and City Commission and property owners to establish future zoning. We held that work session in Q4 of 2025. Staff received some solid feedback and is certainly in talks with the property owners to try to come to terms here as to what would be favorable for the City Commission to eventually see the change from the PRD to an agreed zoning model. Promote environmental awareness and stewardship, particularly around the Chippewa River. And here we're looking at implementing goals and objectives in the city's climate change resiliency plan and to designate the Chippewa River as an official water trail. You'll note that in 2025, we had onboarded our sustainability coordinator, Mason Squillets Peterson. He's doing some excellent work on both of these fronts here. I know I proposed to the City Commission some ideas that he had of potential work sessions, talk about some really interesting programs that he's seen out there. So we'll certainly have him before the City Commission here sooner rather than later. Advance the food waste project and seek funding for combined heat and power. Develop conceptual plan and estimate in order to apply for grants for combined heat and power over there and construct a food waste receiving station. Ultimately, it's the construction of that food waste receiving station that will be the measure for success of this goal. We anticipate having this completed in Q3 of 2026. And address the remaining service life expectancy of AC water mains. Director Moore had done a good job of educating the City Commission during our goals and objectives for 2026 about some of the concerns with AC mains. We have an RFP that we're putting out for a project to take sampling from a representative set of various ages of AC pipe. This should give us an idea as to what kind of pipe we have out there, what condition it's in, and what a future asset management plan for replacement might be into the future. And so by Q3 of 2026, we anticipate having a finished plan, project plan with a final report. Community development housing, advance revitalization initiatives along Mission Street with a focus on redevelopment, transportation, and accessibility. Our goal here is to implement the objectives in the Mission Street Corridor Improvement Plan, which was completed last year. Our measure for this will be the number of goals implemented in the plan. I do know that obviously with the City Commission support, we have applied for a grant for a shared use pathway to go along Mission Street. We hope to have news of that grant fairly soon here. Investigate strategies to develop more missing middle housing to meet the needs of moderate income households. We'll look for new opportunities to attract housing developments, including the use of incentives and grant programs. I know I've updated the City Commission on a really interesting project that, if all pans out, we may be able to work with a developer to get a new sort of pocket community in the Cross Lanes area. Just a quick update on that. Staff had released a request for proposals from potential partners who might be interested in developing the housing over there. And part of that plan is if we can have a partnership with a developer, then we can apply for a particular grant through the state of Michigan, which actually pay for the infrastructure. Think water, sewer, think streets in that new neighborhood. And if the state's able to pay for that, that obviously brings the cost of housing significantly lower for the developer, and we'll be able to deliver on new housing units for the community that are priced at an affordable rate. Increase focus on enforcing the International Property Maintenance Code to maintain safe and appealing neighborhoods. We'll conduct proactive inspections in neighborhoods, increase collaboration with residents through education about property maintenance standards, and implement a systemic follow-up process for violations to ensure timely compliance. I know public safety does a great job of keeping records and data and statistics over there. Several different measures include the number of inspections conducted per quarter, the percentage of identified violations brought into compliance within a set time frame. Typically, it's just going to depend on whatever that violation is, whether they're given 30 or 60 days for correction. And then the goal is to reduce repeat violations at the same time or at the same properties year over year. And so we'll be reporting that on a quarterly basis, obviously with final report due Q4 2026. Economic vitality and business support, improve access to economic development incentives, grant programs, and permitting processes. This will be all about Implementing the incentive programs identified in the 2025 Economic Development Plan. We'll update that to say 2026 Economic Development Plan, and the associated TIFA plans as well. So in 2025, we had updated all of those TIFA plans to run another 10 years. So the DDA will continue doing what it's doing, which is there are some programs for facade improvements and driveway closures with the goal of making Mission Street much more safe, and they'll continue applying for grants as well. And then within the Central Business District, obviously, there are a number of different incentive programs to bolster our downtown, whether that's facade improvement, fire safety, and even looking at new housing within the downtown. So our measure here will be the number of incentives sought after, the number of new developments or added value, positive or negative feedback that's identified through those developers, and then also the amount of negative feedback that we're able to address and put into a better process in the future. Explore opportunities for strategic partnership and investment in underutilized or high potential areas within the city. Identify underutilized high potential areas and market them in combination with incentives that would be considered for development. We'll measure this by the number of properties identified and the number of properties developed. Again, this is something I'm working with our planning community development director on, but this is also something that's tied to that economic development plan. So I anticipate having that economic development plan finished out by Q1 of this year. And then obviously we'll start putting that information out there for any sort of developer who wants to identify some of these underutilized properties. Public Safety and Emergency Services implement key recommendations from the Center for Public Safety Management Fire Study to enhance fire department operations. In here, tactics are improved firefighter training and professional development, enhance operational capacity and staffing efficiency, address apparatus, equipment, and facility needs, strengthen community risk and reduction and emergency preparedness, promote health, safety, and wellness of personnel, and establish clear organizational direction and performance accountability. Per usual, Director Loria has supplied us with some really great measurements here. I won't go through the entire list, but percent of staff completing required competencies annually, number of personnel attending state and local training, number of apparatus or equipment replaced or refurbished within life cycle standards, and a reduction in on-duty injuries. So we have a whole list of different measures here for that success. And then we anticipate that these things should be completed, or at least the whole plan itself, the study and the strategic plan that was developed from the study, its anticipated completion will be in Q4 of 2030, but we'll report to the City Commission on the successes that we have in 2026. Expand community-oriented policing programs in collaboration with local partners. We'll look at officer-initiated public relations stops at area businesses, schools, and other organizations. And our measurement for this will be the number of documented visits by officers throughout the year. Obviously, as this will be a year-long process here, we'll have reporting in Q4 of 2026. Identify and develop future leaders with the police department through leadership training and succession planning. Implement a structured leadership development program that includes mentorship, supervisory training, and rotational assignments to prepare staff for high-level responsibilities. You may recall Director Laurie has talked about the number of newer officers that have come on board. And so obviously training and developing some of these young career officers is one of our primary goals. So our measure will be the number of officers completing leadership training annually, creating post-training evaluations to measure growth in leadership competencies. And this will be a project that we work on all year in 2026. Support the successful implementation of early voting to ensure accessibility and compliance with state laws. We'll align goals and objectives with Union Township, and our combined early voting agreement will track early voting statistics and participation. And our clerk's been pretty good about giving us some really great statistics when that becomes available as far as early voting, total number of voters, all of that. So we'll make sure that that goes out to the City Commission throughout 2026. Enhance promotion of various city programs to increase public awareness and participation. This is really about trying to tell our story in the communications department. Shared, targeted, story-driven social media content through photos, videos, behind-the-scenes highlights to promote programs. We'll begin to track analytics to guide our content decisions. Our measure will be to track social media reach and engagement across all city accounts, along with program participation. organizational excellence and talent development, attract and retain high qualified candidates through competitive hiring processes and professional development. We use competitive recruitment practices and continuous professional development to attract and retain top talent. Our measurement here is to monitor quality of hire, retention through retention of high performers, and internal promotion rates and employee development participation throughout 2026. Last two, I'm almost there. Invest in mentoring and staff development to prepare current employees for future leadership roles. So this is something not just to the Division of Public Safety, but it's also something across the organization as well. Again, I remind the City Commission, one of the statistics that I was given when I came and took this position in 2021 was that within the first 5 years of my being here, now at this point, it's been a little over 40% of the entire organization would be eligible for retirement. And so certainly we've had a number of people obviously take that opportunity, and we absolutely love that of them. But obviously that means we need to bring on more talent to replace those individuals and keep our services going. So for young talent as they're coming in, folks who are early on in their career, we look to establish a mentorship and leadership development pipeline through formal mentor pairings, structured training, and succession planning. We'll track participation in those programs, competency growth, promotion, retention rates, and leadership role readiness. And we'll have some statistics, or at least a story to sort of tell the City Commission by the end of the year. Lastly, there's cough drops up here. My apologies. Hold on. Might actually help. Lastly, foster a supportive and engaging work environment by strengthening organizational culture, recognizing employee contributions, and offering competitive benefits and career growth opportunities. We'll identify weaknesses based on feedback from our workplace environment survey, consider further investigation and surveying if needed, and create interventions to address concerns and gaps in performance. We'll measure this through interventions created to address concerns and gaps, and then we've talked about doing some future surveying at the recommendation of EPIC MRA after 2 years to see if those interventions were successful. Do we have any questions on 2026 goals and objectives?
I actually do. First of all, I want to say thank you for the effort that was gone into this presentation, for the plan, for the review of 2025. It's very easy to read and very informative. I do have some questions regarding, first of all, our plans for housing. I know that in our discussions previously with the city planner, that middle income housing was a target and a big vacuum, but there was a demand for all forms of housing, more or less. Do we have eggs in any other baskets as far as bringing on more than just a pocket community, which is great news, but.
You know, I think obviously part of the main issue here is just affordability, and it's to what level can the City Commission or the city itself, I'm sorry, not just the City Commission, but to what level can the city come in? The City Commission, I know we had a number of different meetings fairly early on when I came on board here. We used to have a couple of different programs, but those programs, I think when you looked at the data on it, such as paying for or a partial payment for the conversion of a rental unit into a family or a single family dwelling or something like that. Those programs didn't prove to be particularly successful. And also the amount of money that was given at the time, and I can't remember if it was $10,000, give or take. $10,000 seems like a lot of money, but obviously for the purchase of a home, a drop in the bucket really wasn't keeping pace with the increase in housing costs. So addressing that affordability issue it's obviously just difficult, and the city doesn't have the money to really funnel into that. So what we're trying to do is get creative with, again, the RFP to bring on new developers and to look at different ideas. Somewhat hopeful of that one. I lead with that one only because in terms of connecting opportunities, this $1.5 million grant that's up for grabs from the state of Michigan, that's significant. That's far more significant than the amount of money that the city could put into such a development here. We're also partnering with Habitat for Humanity as well, and they're looking to do some housing. And so we're trying to encourage that. Those are the two primary leads that we have right now, but some of that is just going to be looking out for further opportunities that the state's going to push down, just because, again, the resources locally are going to be a drop in the bucket for affordability.
Yeah, and I feel we're in a situation to where supply and demand is a real thing and an issue that people face. So yeah, if there's anything that the commission can do to help facilitate that and help you accomplish these tasks, I think most of us would be more than happy to clear out any hurdles that you might have.
Well, thank you.
Another one that I have is regarding the economic development. Does the city and staff have any plans to try to foster more tourism? Because obviously money coming into the town is a benefit.
Yeah.
Tourist towns have higher paying jobs. It brings more businesses. I mean, we have the casino, they have their events and so on and so forth, but is there plans for the city to try to foster more events and things that would bring in outside money?
Absolutely. So when it comes to events, primarily, we have a great partnership with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and they do a really fantastic job of trying to bring a number of different events, because obviously you need to have a location. There's got to be something to bring people here, and that's primarily it. When it comes to our partnership with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, it is trying to work with the different, whether it's conventions, conferences, sports. Sports brings in tons and tons of money into this area community here, and so we're continually trying to encourage more of these sports meets, tournaments, all of those different things take place here in Mount Pleasant. We get a ton of business. Where we're missing, and then we look at, and I really got to give a shout out to Chris Rowley over at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, because she is great on these statistics about here's what we're able to capture, here's what we're not able to capture. Oftentimes, and it kind of goes twofold, things that we aren't able to capture typically are, let's say, the things that are just too big. We don't have the facilities to host, such an 800-person ball tournament, or something like that. Something of a grand scale that we can't host, that's going to have to go to some of your bigger areas out there. Or some of it is, and it's just part of it. It's getting pretty cutthroat out there. And so a lot of people, when they're picking up the phone, talking about where they're going to go, it's not just the facilities, but it's, what can you give me? How can you help me? How can you benefit our organization? And so the CVB has been very good about being able to work with those individuals to work with them and encourage them to come here to the city or to Mount Pleasant. As far as the city operations go, our big thing is going to be events, because that's the thing that I see that draws the outside crowd here. We already have obviously businesses, and we want to encourage more businesses. So that way folks, who are outside of the city will come here and utilize those businesses. But when it comes to the tourism that you're talking about, I think we're talking about events, and this is something that Director Biscorner has been working with his team a lot on to try to encourage more events. So we're able to get and work with Central Michigan University on Fire Up Fest last year. That was a really cool new event. And there's discussion about a potential new event out there. I don't want to give away too much because I think it's still under wraps, and so I don't want to put too much out there. But I know, right? But more information to come on that. But that's where I see the city having a part in that, is really on the events part.
Okay. That's great to hear. I know that there are cities that have found a lot of success with having places for art. You go to Grand Rapids, there's dedicated areas, there's sculptures. You go to Chicago, it's the same there. Denver, you go downtown, there's murals everywhere. So I'm interested in having some discussions regarding ways that we can pave some of those avenues.
Very good. So excellent.
Other questions at this time?
Thank you. This is robust.
Excellent.
Thank you, Manager DeSense, for the very thorough presentation. It's, again, as Commissioner Sklisky put forward, is very informative, and it's very easy to digest there. For those of you in the audience who maybe can't see the screen as closely as we can, it's available through our website as part of the meeting packet.
I put some copies back there too. My apologies. I probably should have started with that too. So for those of you that couldn't see, there are copies of both 2025 and 2026 back there. Happy to stay back and answer any questions anyone has on that too.
Okay. All righty.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Manager DeSense. Okay. That's going to bring us into additions and deletions to this evening's agenda. Before we get too far, let's see, Manager DeSense had made a comment earlier this evening. We were, and I believe all the members of the commission have on their dais a memo from the manager regarding a request to approve promotion of Phil Biscorner to the position of Community Services Director. I'd like to make a motion, or I'd like to amend the agenda and add that as item number 12 in new business.
Seconded.
Okay. Just seconded. Let's see, and then there's gonna be another change after that, but there was I made a motion to add that as item number 12, and then Commissioner Skalitsky seconded. So all those in favor of that addition, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Okay, the change is passed. And then the other change, Manager DeSense, if you would take over on that. Explain that one.
So we do have City Attorney Mike Homier here this evening. Now, initially, we were going to ask the City Commission to go into closed session to talk about the proposed contract changes for the city manager's contract. Upon further review, City Attorney does not believe that that is going to be a legitimate reason to go into closed session, so we'll have to have that conversation in open session. So I do ask that we have that added to this evening's agenda under new business. And then I will also have a proposed modification to the closed session because while we're here, we do have a legal issue that came up late on Friday. Should be a very quick discussion from the city attorney, but he would like to go into closed session to talk about that. And I do have the proposed modification to the closed session language, which I'll.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so first thing then would be asking for if members of the commission would like to proceed with the discussion on the manager's and compensation discussion for the manager at this time, potential modifications there. I'm seeing a nod over there. Is there a motion to add that as item number 13?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Alsager and seconded by the Vice Mayor Eke to add discussion on potential changes to compensation and contract for the city manager. All those in favor of the motion of adding that as item number 13, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. And then the last one, I would move to exchange the closed session this evening, so originally listed as item number 12, to cancel closed session, originally listed as item number 12, and to add to the agenda as item number 14, closed session pursuant to MCL 15-268-1E, to consult with the city attorney regarding trial or settlement strategy in connection with Mission Street Holdings LLC versus City of Mount Pleasant, case number 25-21059, because discussion in public would have a detrimental financial effect on the city's litigating or settlement position. So a motion has been made to add that closed session as item number 14.
Seconded.
Seconded by Commissioner Skalitsky. Do we need a roll call vote to add that to the agenda, or no, we could just do, okay. All those in favor of adding that to the agenda, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. And just to be on the safe side, well, first, any other changes members of the commission would like to propose at this time? Gotcha. Not seeing any, and just to be on the safe side, I would make a motion to approve the agenda as modified.
Second it.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Eke. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay. With that, that will bring us into public input on agenda items. If you are a member of the public, please step up to the podium. You will be given 5 minutes to speak. Please indicate what item you are speaking on, your name and address.
Hello, my name is Hannah Demerath. My address is 517 South Washington. I am here as an applicant for the vacancy on the commission, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself. Hello, I'm Hannah, and show my face, and so you can kind of put a face to the application, and thank you for considering my application.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hannah.
There.
Hello, I'm Marta Notstein, 1361 South Crawford Street. And this is regards of marijuana ordinances. I guess that's appropriate in this spot. When I drive in the North Mission and Pickard Street intersection, why am I knocked over by the marijuana odors? Earlier in January, driving through that intersection in my car, and when I walk out of the doors so many times at the Meyer store, the smell is overwhelming. I hate that that is the first sensory impression a visitor has of Mount Pleasant. Hot. It's worse than having a pig farm in the city. Thank you for letting me vent.
Thank you. If there's anyone on Zoom, please indicate that you would like to speak by using the raised hand feature. Are there any emails that we have received? Any raised hands? Gotcha. Anyone else in the audience? Not seeing anyone? I'm going to go ahead and close public input on agenda items. And that'll bring us into receipt of petitions and communications. Manager DeSense, if you would.
Receipt of petitions and communications includes the 2025 report on review of medical and adult use marijuana ordinances, the minutes of the Airport Joint Operations Management Board from November 2025, monthly report on police-related citizen complaints received, and listing of payrolls and warrants from December 9, 2025 through January 12, 2026.
Thank you. If I may make a comment on that briefly. Item number 4, the 2025 report on review of medical adult use marijuana ordinances. My reading of that, of the request for that report in the ordinance, my reading indicated, like, to me, it came across as it was only needed the 1 year in 2023 for review, not as a potentially reoccurring review. I appreciate the information, but it appeared to just be like the need for the 1 year. So I just wanted to make that note to staff. I don't know if that's, just wanted to pass that along there. So,
Thank you, Mayor.
okay, and that'll bring us to our consent agenda this evening. Manager DeSense, if you would.
Consent items for this evening includes approval of minutes from the regular meeting held December 8, 2025, consider contract with Dickinson Wright for bond counsel in the amount not to exceed $68,560, and consider contract with Benzinski and Company for municipal finance advisors in the amount not to exceed $30,000.
Okay. Are there any questions from members of the commission on the items in the consent agenda?
I do have one regarding item 8.
Commissioner
Minutes for
Swifty.
last meeting. If we look at the minutes regarding the purchasing agreement, it reads as that the issue is completely closed and finalized, but there is nothing on a document of record indicating my wish to pursue, including union labor in our efforts to get bidding for our work that we're doing. So I would just like that in a document of record that there's intent from the commission to pursue these avenues and these interests.
I don't know. I don't know if you have it in front of you there. What page of the packet is that on? Could you remind me?
Let's see.
Let's see.
It's in the minutes for,
Yeah.
for last month. I mean, there's no of a poem in there and everything else that took place, but regarding the issue, the wish for union labor, there's nothing noted, so.
Commission. Comment.
At least in the copy of the packet that I have.
No, you're good. That was announcements. Let's see, in that case, since there would need to be an emotion, in that, because there would be, need to be a motion to amend that, we can move that into new business, because we would have to handle that separately. So if we need to make an amendment, we can make a potential amendment, to it in new business. So is,
I would like to make a motion to,
you wouldn't need to make a motion on
Okay.
that, just your preference there, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Manager DeSense.
Yeah, if I could, I know the city commission discussed this at the last meeting, and there were some ideas around that. Obviously, there would be some specifics which we would need to work out. So it was being identified on staff's end to add this to a work session to talk about the particulars that we want to put in the purchase policy. What is it that we want to include in the language as far as, you know, unions? Is it similar to the local contract provision in there that allows a 1-2% leeway? It was just, you know, staff is fully understands where the commissioner's coming from. I just wanted to work on a work session for clarification as to what kind of language in particular we want in there.
Yeah, 100%. And it was included in your follow-up email to the commission, but it's not in the minutes from last meeting. So I wanted to get that included.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep,
yeah.
we're on the same
and-
page.
But, yeah, so we can move that item number 8 into, let's move that into new business then, for any further discussion about that. And that would just be 8, and then we'd go into 11, 12, and 13. Let's see. So with that, then, is there any other questions or items we would like to remove from the consent agenda at this time? Or is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified?
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda as modified.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by the Vice Mayor, and seconded by Commissioner Rollins to approve the consent agenda as modified. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Motion passes. All right, that brings us into public hearings. There are no public hearings this evening, which brings us right back into our discussion on item number 8, approval of minutes from the regular meeting held December 8th, 2025. The big thing about that, I do see what you're saying, because that was a fixture of the conversation we had on that item. And like other members of the commission can correct me if I'm wrong, I just don't recall us making like a specific motion at that time, which would need recording or anything. And that's where like the question I have, if other members of the commission have recollection on that as well, the Vice Mayor, if you'd like.
If I understand Commissioner Skalitsky, I think it's a question of representing the minutes accurately. That's what I'm hearing, that at least indicate in the minutes that there was a suggestion to consider including language that addresses, purchases from unions in, when we're looking at, contracts or purchasing.
Gotcha. Okay.
There was no indication of percentages. It's just simply give that a consideration.
Gotcha.
And that's not in here. It's not even indicated that there
Have
was
that
that
covered.
request. Maybe one way of request, of addressing it is just simply to say that there's a request, to give that consideration.
Gotcha. Let's see.
The intent is just to make sure that there is intention from the commission to direct staff into investigating this type of language and the avenues that we can pursue to be more inclusive for union labor. That's
Yeah.
all.
Gotcha.
That's all.
And yeah, so the language in question is the moved by Vice Mayor Eke and seconded by Commissioner Sklitsky to approve revisions to the purchasing manual as presented. Motion unanimously adopted. Yeah, so most of the items in there, like in the minutes regard specific to like actions, and voted upon resolutions. I guess, is, looking for kind of like what language we'd want to add in that case, or
I,
if there's,
I would say that in there, moved by Commissioner Skalitsky and seconded by Vice Mayor AK, to move item number 1 to, what is it? Revised purchasing manual, to new business to include a consideration
Oh.
of union,
but if so I'm not certain that was the motion though. That's the
I
big
think that
thing.
was the
But the conversation that occurred, so like, again, like, so that was the movement of the item into new business. And then if you scroll down to new business below the budget, that's when the actual motion to approve the item occurred. So we could, like, again, the minutes are essentially our notebook, our record. So, I mean, we could, if you would like to make a motion to add an item, nothing in there, as I see it, there's nothing inaccurate about the minutes. That's kind of what I'm trying to convey here is as I see it, I don't think there's anything inaccurate about them, but we could add them for the record, add text for the record if you would like.
That is my intent. It's not inaccurate. I feel it is incomplete because there is intent from the commission after the discussion regarding the purchasing agreement.
Okay, gotcha. Let's see.
Can we add it as an addendum to the minutes?
I suppose, like, unless, like, again, I'm going to ask staff unless other members of the commission would first like to comment on my question. I suppose it wouldn't be inappropriate to, after the item, before the item, so between resolution unanimously adopted, before or after, but just discussion took place on the potential, for creating more union-friendly purchasing policy or bidding policy. Other members of the commission wanted to comment on that. Otherwise, I would turn to staff for like kind of comment on like any appropriateness. The city attorney's here if you, we don't modify the minutes very often, but the clerk Schmelzer. Yeah. No, you're good. You're good. And while staff are discussing, this is where it's important of like, I remark sometimes, not often at the stand, but, we could come in here and have no discussion whatsoever. All that's required of us is to vote items up, down, no other language is required. So that's where the motions themselves are the key portion because those are what get recorded in the minutes. So the language we use is the important portion, but Manager DeSense?
As you said, Mayor Wingard, if the motion is to modify the minutes to include that City Commission had a discussion on changing the purchase policy and having a conversation on union-friendly contract language, however you want to phrase it, that would be acceptable. Just to note that sort of conversation took place.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. So if you'd, then in that case, Commissioner Sklitsky. Oh.
I just have a thought. I took it that it was a comment of yours and that we didn't really discuss it. Did we discuss it?
We had, like, there was some
We did.
discussion. Yeah, there was like back and forth discussion.
Okay.
But we didn't take action, but there was discussion from the members of the commission, which occurred during the meeting. So yeah, reflecting that in the minutes and everything.
We had to make an approval that night in order to stay compliant with some of the grants and the work that we needed to do. So action needed to be taken that night. So the discussion was had about potential changes in the future to be more inclusive for union labor, which is my intent. And I can just bring it up as new business if it's easier, that I would have intent to include union labor in our purchasing agreement but it seems like a modification of minutes would be easier.
Gotcha. If you would like to, if you would like to just make the motion to, for the modification of minutes there. So would you like to make a motion to modify the minutes to reflect a discussion occurring on modify the minutes to reflect a discussion occurring on improvements or changes to purchasing and bidding processes to improve union friendliness.
To consider union friendly.
Just include them in the bidding process, yes.
Okay.
Gotcha. Is that clear enough for staff? Can we work with that? Okay.
Okay.
I think that was your motion. I will second that.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. Okay, yeah. Commissioner Skalitsky made the motion that was suggested. Vice Mayor Eke seconded it. All of those in favor of amending the minutes or updating the minutes as discussed and motioned, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay. Okay, that brings us into item number 11 of new business. Consider recommendations from the Appointments Committee for the City Commission vacancy. Clerk Schmelzer, could you remind us the term that we are discussing? So we would be, assuming we appoint this evening, it would be sworn in at our next regular meeting. And then when is the partial term ending?
August 4th will be the August primary, which this position or this open seat will be on that ballot. Yep.
Okay, with that, let's see. Let's see. Commissioner Bush, who had in 2024 been reelected to a 4-year term by the highest margin of votes, unfortunately was unable to complete her term. As her replacement, she put forward someone who she felt would best match the perspectives and experiences she brought to the commission, and Ms. Hannah Demaroth. Ms. Demaroth has had a short tenure on the Mount Pleasant Zoning Board of Appeals. She is a mother of 2 young children, 7 and 4, I believe, and is a homeowner within the city. After discussion with the Appointments Committee, we have decided to recommend Ms. Demaroth's appointment to the partial term expiring August 24th, 2026. I believe during the short appointments until the voters may consider their options, Ms. Demaroth will uphold the expectation the voters had for her predecessor, Commissioner Bush. As the chair of the 2025 Appointments Committee, I would make the motion to appoint Ms. Demaroth to the partial term vacancy.
Can I ask a question?
There is we can have discussion on it.
Okay. I
Yeah,
just want to make sure that we have discussion before we go to vote.
that is fair. Yeah,
Do you need a second first?
I would need a second. Yeah,
I'll second your motion.
seconded by Commissioner Al Sager. Going into discussion there, I believe. Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
the last time we were appointing someone, one of the criterias was that the person did not have any ambitions to run for that seat. Did you have that same criteria this time?
That was not criteria that I approached it with, and
Can you tell me why?
criteria that I approached it with as far as to run, to seek someone who is not running or seek someone who may consider running in the future. Part of it was I had feedback that a lot of members of the commission had conflict with the appointment that occurred. And part of that happened there, as I look at it, is we brought in someone with a lot of experience and past experience with the city. And they, in my opinion, there was baggage on different items. Just as there is experience and knowledge, there is also baggage and firmly held beliefs or opinions, which if someone is not running, could introduce conflict. And so that was the first time I think that we had come forward with that as a form of criteria. I don't know if that was done for Brian Chapman's appointment or Brian Assman's appointment before them. I don't know if that was criteria that was used. But the other consideration of it, in 2024, beginning of 2024, was it just the beginning of it was the beginning of 2025, excuse me. What a year. Beginning of 2025, there was no other city commissioners on the ballot at that time, I believe. It was so creating an open seat. It was the election occurring in 2025. This year, there are going to be, in essence, 5 of the members of the commission up for re-election. Whoever the appointment is, it would be the vacancy, and then there is going to be 4 other people on the ballot. It's the potential for high turnover no matter what, whether or not there's an open seat or not. 5 seats is a lot to contest there. So as for myself, those were items that I considered there, looking into it.
I don't think it'll be 5 because whoever gets elected in August would complete her term.
Oh, no, that's not my point. My point being that there will be 5 members of the commission elected this year. Because they will be elected in August, and then 4 of us would then subsequently be elected in November, which it's a good chunk of the board there.
That changes the rotation that got started.
Yeah, it's since that change came in, former clerk Bauk had to break it to me a couple of months into my tenure that, no, you're going to be here for 4 years. I didn't think I was going to be around in 2026. And then she had to remind me that change, that voter amendment did in fact take place and affect your Commissioner Alsager and myself. So there's.
But it just means that seat, when elected in August, will fill out the rest of that term.
Yes.
So they will be running if I run again.
Right.
In 3 years. So technically 4 people are going to be put in the new rotation. And 1 person will just be added to the old.
Yeah. But there will be 5 different opportunities for election this year.
Yeah.
Right.
Which seem to reduce the overall need to create a vacancy, in my mind, at the very least.
Can you tell me how you came to the decision?
Yeah, reviewing the applicants, we reviewed and we had a total of 8 applicants here. We had a wide range of backgrounds and experiences. Reviewing these, I do have to consider the fact that for myself anyway, and I've discussed this with Commissioner Alsager and Commissioner Rollins, I look at the fact that, as we're trying to fill a role, the only thing that qualifies any of us for being up here is the votes to our name. There's no other job qualifications. There's no other experience. It's just what kind of votes that can be put forward towards yourselves. So in this case, working with Ms. Demeroth, I think that her life experience is one that I'd like to see represented on the commission. And we have a lot of people doing a lot of good work in our community right now. And I think this is an avenue to just potentially give someone experience to voice their experiences in our community and be an additional voice to, someone who is building a young family. We have Commissioner Skolitsky, who has the youngest child out of all of us, I believe. But I think that growing Mount Pleasant, creating a place that is inclusive and inviting, having the perspective of a younger individual such as Ms. Demeroth, I think it'd be beneficial for the commission. That was my personal opinion there as I was reviewing the available options. Yeah.
And partly to answer your question, I think I was the only one that looked at it as someone who had said on their application that they would not run again.
Okay.
So that was my top pick.
Okay. There were others that had stated on their application that they wouldn't run again because I reviewed all of them as well. They're in the Dropbox. We can always review those things. My one concern is that when I bring up issues or understandings from a business aspect, being a business owner, that a lot of times my views are not seen as reasonable, or they are put aside for this fear that we will get too business heavy. There has been that in the past where the commission has been very business heavy, and I understand the fear of that, but I also want to make sure that we are being inclusive of everyone that is in the city, which would include, you know, having somebody who maybe is a professor at Central or is a business owner, is a veteran. You know, we have those, but we don't have a lot of support for businesses in general on the board.
Okay.
Enough said.
Other members of the commission who would like to have discussion or on this item? Questions, anything of that nature? Vice Mayor?
I too read through the, the applications. I feel like swallowing this thing. So I read through the applications, and while I would say that, everyone who submitted application, qualifies, comes with very strong credentials, I was looking at, people who, offer, I would say, fresh, ways, perspectives that we generally don't have. I noticed that at least, one of the persons who submitted an application has served as city commissioner, has served on several commissions. So for me, while that doesn't necessarily exclude the person, but the person is too familiar with, the structure itself. And I was hoping that whoever comes in here, would, come with brand new perspectives. But I think what's interesting about Ms. Demaroth's candidacy is that Liz Bush had vouched for her in terms of, her perspectives or or familiarity with, with her. And I trust Liz Bush because I've worked with her for, about 4 years here. And so my tendency, really was to look at that. I looked at the other ones, and I think that any one of them could serve this commission, well. But what gives Demaroff a little bit of an edge is the fact that Bush had actually said, I have spoken to this person. This is this, person who comes close to representing the perspectives that, I stand for on the commission. So I'm happy with, the selection, assuming that she says yes. She could very well say no, don't want to work with you, after this conversation.
Any other discussion or questions on the motion to appoint Demaroth to the partial term?
I think that it's very commendable for us to follow Liz's suggestion. While it's not her place to handpick her successor, it is something that Hannah has showed interest in and was willing to come and speak to us. Out of any of the other applicants, she was one that has shown face. And I am excited to have the perspective of a young parent working with us on the commission.
Okay. Without any other discussion, we'll move to vote on the motion. All those in favor of the appointment of Demaroth to the commission for the partial term expiring August 4th, 2026, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Motion passes. Okay, that'll bring us to item number 12. On my notes, I just have written Phil Biscorner. So, Manager Sense, if you would.
Absolutely. So my request here is for the city commission to approve the promotion of Phil Biscorn to the position of Community Services Director. Division directors are subject to the approval of the city commission, but are recommended by the city manager. Phil Biscorn had come to us in 2021 as our director for the Parks Department. When the Parks and Recreation Department was folded together as a single department, Phil had taken that lead in 2023. He's got a master's degree in public administration from Central Michigan University. He stepped up on a number of different efforts, whether that's supporting our TIFA boards, handling the principal shopping district special assessment, and especially his internal operations, something that we've been very keen on in trying to straighten out some of the call it just the budgetary fluctuations of some of our programs. He's been very good about creating structure and greater predictability in some of those programs. So I had met with Phil midway through the year and talked to him about some different professional development opportunities that I wanted to see him take on. So that way he could further his education in planning, development, building, and those kind of things. And Phil has certainly stepped up to the plate and attended those trainings. So my recommendation here for the city commission then is the approval of his promotion to the position of Community Services Director.
Okay. Okay.
I motion that we approve the appointment of Phil Biscorner to the position of Community Service Director.
Seconded.
Second. Wow.
Okay. I think I heard Commissioner Sklitsky first. So motion made by Commissioner Perschbacher, seconded by Commissioner Sklitsky. Just as a note, I'm excited to see you step into the role. With that, all those in favor of the motion to appoint Director Biscorner to the Director of Community Service, to the position of Community Services Director, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes.
Congratulations.
Speech, no speech?
More work for you. More work for you.
All right, that brings us into item number 13, a discussion on potential changes to city managers' compensation and contract with the city of Mount Pleasant. Let's see. We're good. So members of the commission, you'll recall that we had just previously discussed manager dissent's performance review for 2025. With that, I don't have your specific reviews in front of me. I do apologize, Manager Dissents. But we had given an overall favorable rating on a scale of 1 to 5. I believe we had rated you between 4 and 5 overall score. So 4 points gets a little fuzzy for me. I can't remember exactly. But again, generally overall favorable on your ratings there. In our discussion, you had presented us with potential compensation change options, and then also some requested changes to your contract, letting members of the commission know the original intent was to have the city attorney here to answer any questions we might have about the contract or anything. And I think, as it was rightly pointed out, that's yes, making a contract is legal and everything, so that kind of answered those questions. But he's here all the same if there are any questions from members of the commission. Members or commissioners, we have had time to work and review with this. Is there any questions or discussions on this at the moment? I realize that, again, it was originally intended as a closed session, so you might not have your notes immediately in front of you. But as you are thinking about it, takeaways or anything from the previous conversations we have had? Any members of the commission who'd like to offer comment? Commissioner Alsager.
I think some of the modifications to the contract made a lot of sense. And I'd further like to suggest that we explore giving a raise of between 4 and 7%.
Gotcha. Raise a beat. Making notes here. Again, I don't know if you have your notes in front of you, but you were saying that there were aspects of the proposed changes that made a lot of sense. Your thoughts on any particulars of those? Or again, you can
No.
defer. Okay, gotcha. Let's see. There were, not seeing anyone else jump in at it. Oh, Vice Mayor, okay.
If I recall, I'm trying to pull up my notes here. If I recall, Manager Dissents did propose a certain amount, a set amount. You know, are we allowed to address that or discuss that? Because, you know, since we just found out that we didn't have to go into a closed session, right? So I don't know the extent to which we are allowed, or, you know, this conversation permits us to address specific, you know, figures that, you know, or a specific figure that was proposed.
Yeah, so all of that information is public information, which is why it has to be done in an open session. If there were questions about the legality of certain provisions, then we could draft a legal opinion and discuss those in closed session. But as I understand the proposed revisions, these are all terms and conditions, not necessarily legal issues that the commission is addressing within the context of that contract. So yes, there is a specific number that was suggested as compensation along with other changes or provisions, including the severance and what constitutes cause for termination, those types of issues.
Okay. All right.
Let's see.
It might be useful, you know, to discuss this contract in terms of sections or items as opposed to all of it, because there are a number of items that we need to talk about.
Certainly. As far as proposed contract changes, I'd say the first major contract change discussing that was the request to change much of the severance in the event of termination without cause. Currently, under the current contract, if the city were to terminate the manager without cause, that would result in essentially a 6-month severance package covering things such as just regular salary, then I believe healthcare and retirement costs as well, were the other two major items with that. The proposed changes would take us from 6 months to 24 months, if I'm remembering correctly,
Yes.
grabbing my notes here. Yeah, 24 months. So from a 6 months time frame to a 2-year time frame for those costs of equal compensation, and that is for without cause. One thing that I would not be comfortable with, especially with these contract changes, is the proposed changes do seem to drastically limit what the definition of cause is. Item number 12, the city, let's see. Item number 12, sorry, apologies. Under the current contract, item 8D lists out termination reasons for cause, and it goes into very specific elements of it, all the way from conviction of or plea of guilty or no contest to a felony, material breach of the agreements, fraud or embezzlement, dishonesty, bad things. It lists out all the bad things that could potentially happen and occur, but those are kind of shoehorned in the proposed changes into a portion of section in the proposed contract. Would be under C2, which just states terminate if the manager is terminated is terminated because of a felony conviction, the city shall have no obligation to provide severance pay or related benefits under this section. So it really truncates what is cause. I had a previous conversation with the city attorney that kind of, it was the idea of, you know, again, like, I mean, if Aaron, if you just decided to go on a hiatus without informing any of us and everything, would that be a problem under that'd be the breach, a material breach of the contract? That kind of definition there. That's a portion of the concern that I had as far as it. Kind of taking a straw poll, looking for conversation from other members of the commission. Moving from 6 months to 24 months of compensation. Thoughts on that from members of the commission? Or if there's
What would be the industry standard for that?
So,
Because 24 months seemed to be a bit on the high side,
yeah,
in my estimation.
yeah.
Because typically, from what I've read, it would go from anywhere from 6 to 12 months.
Gotcha. Thoughts from other members of the commission? Other concerns?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Rawlings. 24 months or 2 years seems yeah. I have seen 6 months, I've seen 8 months, I have seen 10, I've seen up to 1 year. But I am not sure that I can't think of a situation where it is 24 months. You know, it almost feels punitive in a way. You know, I don't like using the word, but that's how it feels. In some, that yeah, I think that I do see where there's a possibility of looking at the 6 months, but 24 months, I'm not comfortable with. I think it's problematic. Besides, if you think, yeah, I don't know, but that's where I am. I know of instances up to at least 12 months.
Instances?
Yeah, for sure. I just don't want to name the places, but I do know of that. So.
Gotcha.
Pershbacher has.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Pershbacher.
One thing that we have to think about is that city managers are not a dime a dozen. You don't have somebody with that skill everywhere. And if a city manager is just suddenly terminated without cause, so I understand stating in there that it has to be a felony to terminate. That leaves that city manager struggling to find a job, and it leaves the city struggling to replace them. As I had said when we were in closed session, there are cities out there trying to find city managers right now. I have been approached by headhunters, but I don't want to move. I know Aaron has been approached, and he doesn't want to move. But that does not mean that we should just say, well, if we do terminate him, we'll just give him 6 months. I'm not talking about a football coach being terminated in the NFL and still giving their full pay. I do think that 24 months is a bit high, but I do understand why, especially after the last 2 years and the aggression that has happened. But I would be interested in looking at 12 to 18 months of severance pay. And I do not want to remove anything. I don't want to add anything other than felony for removal.
I'm not suggesting
I know, but
adding
I'm
anything.
just saying, I don't want us to put down a laundry list of ways to get rid of somebody. So that's what I'm saying. I think that if the city, and it would be the commission that makes that decision to remove a city manager because we are his boss, I want to make sure that we understand that we have to do our due diligence to understand the facts that are being presented, any complaints that are being presented, and not draw out a process that is overwhelming and dangerous and damaging, like we have done for the last couple of years. I would like to propose that we change it to 18 months and that the amount that is in the contract that we, in good faith, fully consider for his pay.
I don't agree. I'm kind of confused as to what you're referring to for the past 2 years, because basically I've been here for 2 years and I haven't seen anything out of the ordinary other than usual disgruntledness between managers and subordinates. That's going to happen in any office environment, any corporate environment. And just because that happens and people's egos and feelings get hurt and people feel slighted and feel unsupported, that doesn't mean that we go ahead and give them the whole kit and caboodle. We solve the issue that basically caused the strike to begin with. I don't think awarding exorbitant amounts of compensation to make up for the trouble is the answer. I think getting to the root cause of the issue is the answer, and making sure that it doesn't happen again and being proactive to make sure it doesn't happen again is the answer. I think awarding 24 or 18 months of compensation when the position was never in jeopardy of being terminated is short-sighted. And considering the state of the economy, considering the state of our finances, which we are doing very well considering, it just doesn't make sense. I think there has to be another way, sure. I don't see anything wrong with going from 6 months to 9 months to 12 months. But to go from 6 months to 18 months to 24 months is punitive to the city's finances. And it also, considering that we also have other contracts to public safety in which we are saying that it would ruin the city over a period of time, make that make sense. I mean, we're asking, on top of the 4 to 7% increase, we're asking for what essentially would be, to me, pacification. I don't think that's the right way to go about it. Just my thoughts.
Commissioner Sklitsky, I don't believe you've spoken.
I'll go ahead and chime in on this. I am in similar mind with Commissioner Rollins. It seems like 18 to 24 months is a little bit long. In my experience, people who have that type of security find themselves in a more lax position. I'm not saying that you would, Aaron, by any way, shape, or form. When we went through the review, great grades. If I remember correctly, it was like a 4.6 average, 4.68 is what's kind of chiming on the top of my head. Definitely worthy of a raise. Yeah, and the information that you gave us regarding other city managers, comparable wages, so on and so forth, it definitely gives us a leg to stand on. The amount that was requested I feel is a little bit high. I also feel like 4 to 7% is a little bit low. Like, yeah, you've been doing a good job. In my experience, from what I have seen in my short tenure on the commission, yeah, I know when I was given like a cost of living raise when I was like non-union and yeah, making peanuts, it was always kind of a kick, like a real kick to the gut. And I feel like a 4% would be like a cost of living type raise. And this, this is, you put a lot of work into this, and we were appreciative of the excellent spreadsheets, and all the docs makes it really easy for us to digest. It's your work is noted, and yeah. I feel somewhere along the lines of a year severance is fair. It provides some breathing room to allow finding another position after some room to digest and have things calm. But it also provides the city with a little bit of wiggle room, because we would have to find another city manager, and we would have to pay 2 salaries in order to make that happen. And if it's a salary of $180,000 on top of the salary of a new city manager, it would be a very hard cost for us to eat. So we need to find some balance in that. So yeah, I think somewhere around 10 to 15%. 10 is what's kind of ringing true to me. I know I would be grateful if I got a 10% raise every year. Just me personally. And yeah, the severance, it does need some adjustment, because 6 months is not much of a time to find that type of position and facilitate a move to make that happen. So that's kind of where I'm landing on everything.
Vice Mayor Eke.
The conversation about, salaries and compensation, not very, very palatable. And, I belong to a union, and I know how, yeah, I do. I belong to a union, and I know how painful, this conversation, negotiating a salary, or compensation is. While I understand, I mean, again, in agreement with Commissioner Rawlings, there has not been any, first of all, there's been no indication from this commission that manager dissent's position is threatened. At least, I haven't. I don't know if you have, but if you have, you've not made that known to me. So I don't understand where the notion of bad treatment or lack of support or being threatened is coming from. There's not been an indication of that from us, at least. Not in terms of, our position or in writing. I use the word punitive deliberately because when I saw it, my initial reaction last year was really to say, ouch, what happened? It was almost as if, hey, you want to end up in really bad, relationship, signal bad relationship with the people you work with. And for me, that's problematic. I do see a need for taking a look at the previous contract language in terms of the length of time that the manager's salary and compensation would be covered by the city. I do think that 6 months is too small. It's not enough. Okay. But I don't think that 24 months, no, 24 months, that is just simply, it's unrealistic. I can see the residents of the city sort of going,
picking up arms against us. My neighbors would, people in my community would talk to me all the time. And I don't want them talking to me all the time or calling me to keep me awake. No, I don't want that. So 24 months is out of the question. And I'm thinking, somewhere between, 8 months, 10 months, I might be dragged to 12 months. But I'm not so sure that I want to go up to 24 months. In terms of the salary presented to us was 180,000. I went to take a look at the salaries of mayors and governors of states. The range is between 150,000 to about 180, in some cases 200,000. And I'm looking at this saying, but for a city like Mount Pleasant, do we have that much money? I realize that, okay, we may have some money coming from marijuana or something, but do we really have that much money, given all the things that we're trying to take care of? Well, I'm not saying that we should not consider taking another look at manager descent's salary. I do think that asking a city such as this that has absolutely no financial base except for property taxes and maybe grants and money from marijuana, to offer 180,000 a year, cannot be seen. For me, it is problematic. And so I'm trying to work on that. I think, that to be fair, cost of living increase may not be where we want to go. In this case, it's about 4%. But also bear in mind that we just completed a contract with a number of, another union, a couple of, a number of workers where we're not offering them this huge amount. So we're looking at approximately $40,000 above what we had already offered in terms of, above the current compensation. Okay, let's be honest. I like manager descents, but I'm not so sure that I want to offer $180,000 right now. Does the city have that? Given everything that we've been told that we have to do, okay, is that realistic? Is that fiscally responsible? I want to take a look at his salary and rework it. Let's think in terms of, reasonable percentages. So that's where I am standing on this right now. I'd like to have a conversation. I want to assure manager descents that at least as of this moment, I'm not thinking of, firing him or terminating him. But again, I don't know what's going on, why, what brought up all of this. So I can't vouch for him. I can only vouch for myself. I can't vouch for the rest of the commissioners. I can vouch for myself. So I think that, we need to do this in a way that it recognizes, it acknowledges the dignity of the manager, preserves the integrity of the work that he does, and acknowledges the work that he does. But at the same time, to make sure that whatever decision we make does not hurt the city fiscally, because after all, we're both trying to work in the interest of the city. And part of that is being fiscally responsible.
I would like to say that I appreciate that you looked at mayors and governors and things like that, but you have to understand that many times they are also given a home in several locations. Like the governor of Michigan has a home and residence on Mackinac Island and such. So you have to consider that as well in their package, not just what they're being paid.
Sure.
So I don't think that that is a reasonable comparison.
Well, there are also other aspects of the compensation that the manager gets. The city covers educational compensation. Does the city not do that? Right? So,
Does that for many employees?
Okay, so that's part of the package. So, You know, the point that I'm trying to make is comparing us, this small city with very limited financial base, to other cities that have more robust financial bases seems to me unrealistic. And I'm saying that, here is what the governor is getting. I don't think that it is a bad comparison necessarily. It's also other governors. I looked at other governors. I looked at other places. I'm just simply saying on the average, this is what I'm seeing. And I'm looking at what he's asking, saying to myself, I don't think this is realistic. Regardless of what they're getting, this is not realistic for us, at least from where I see it.
Well, I understand that, but I just don't think that comparing his job to the job of a governor of a state it's not comparable.
Okay, accepted.
Let's see. If I might jump in on Commissioner Alsager, I know we had talked, you had started us off talking to us like a potential 4 to 7% increase was your recommendation. Your thoughts on like length of time there? That's where the conversations moved to. Kind of giving us a tally and everything along so far. I've different comfort levels that I've heard. I heard Commissioner Vice Mayor.
You don't have to recap. I
Okay.
was listening. I think I could agree with the 12-month severance. And one of the reasons I said 4 to 7% is if we would go 7% and 7% and 7% for 3 years, we would get up to what was originally suggested. Just an idea.
So the idea of doing a 7% now, a more limited increase, and then potentially giving room for it to grow over the next couple of several years.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Looking for that long-term commitment.
Let's see. Yeah, working with it, and again, like all this is other than obviously other than the pay increase, which would go into effect and would be benefited by the manager. All of this is the other portions of our discussion are if we were to again terminate without cause. We decided, the relationship or the employment relationship isn't working out currently. No hard feelings, but we just need to change. We need to go in a different direction. So all of this is the hypothetical. It's the possible, but I do think it's as I think Commissioner Skalitsky's point when he brought up the fact of like, it would be potentially 2 years. Like if we approved as presented, it would be 2 years where we're paying 2 salaries for that position, which is a lot. And also I do understand the concern about that Commissioner Perschbacher brought up about we need to take action to put in place protections so that a commission doesn't just fire the manager without cause, just like wantonly. And there's been a lot of reference to the past 2 years, but to that I would just say the fact that the manager is still here. The manager has kept doing good work despite it all. Still is in the chair. And again, we look forward to working with him. So in essence, and I understand the request for the changes, but the current package has worked up until this point. So I mean, that like the contract as it stands has been effective. I do think it would be important, it would behoove us to maintain in there just again like definitions of what does like what does cause look like. I think that because it's a contract, we do have to maintain those kinds of terms and conditions, and that's what's in there currently. Those are elements that are in there currently. So I do think those are things that we should regard there. The education benefit is provided for as part of PACT policy. It's not provided for necessarily as part of the contract itself. But the contract does go over the potential that if it was for termination without cause, not being required to reimburse the city for any expenses related to the education benefit. Let's see. Working with that, if I believe PACT policies currently list out procedures for if, an employee was to initiate leaving themselves, so that if they were receiving an education benefit, they can't just take their education and go to a different community. There'd be an expectation of rate compensation for that. We pay for the education of our employees because we want to have more educated employees working for us, and we want to see the benefits of that education. But if we're terminating without cause, that's not something that I suppose the manager has in that case, or without cause. I think that's a reasonable thing to keep in there potentially. Of if we are letting go the manager, that we're not going to also tell them you now have to pay for the education that we're paying for or we provided.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Since you brought that up, I'm thinking about faculty and sabbaticals, so, and because that's my experience, and I'm using that as a parallel to what you just said. So the city covers provides educational opportunities or pays for educational opportunities for its staff, for the manager. Were the city to terminate the contract, I do agree that, it would be responsible of the city to ask the manager to repay them for, repay the city the educational, compensation of fees, but
No, you're good, you're
if the termination is from the city without cause, right?
Yeah.
So it seems to me hurtful if the city were to do that and then turn around and say to the manager, you need to pay us back, the money we spent on you, for your education. However, I do have a question, and this is where the attorney comes in. The attorney I am asking, let's assume the manager, hypothetical manager, after receiving, educational compensation, or at least after, receiving education for which the city has paid, chooses then to leave. What is the city's right? I mean, in terms of faculty in places that I know, including CMU, if your faculty and the university gives you opportunity to go on educational leave or sabbatical, you are expected to serve a certain length of time before you pack up your things and then use that, benefit to go somewhere else. What then does, what is the city's option? Is there an option for the city in this case? Bernie, I'm asking.
I'm working on also, if you want to talk, and I'm looking at PACT policies right now would be what I'm looking for.
Yeah, so there are instances in which you can recoup educational monies that are paid. Typically, those are tied to a length of time, but more often than not, they go unreimbursed because the person's gone, and then you have to, unless there's some offset against some other benefit that's owed and accrued, there's no way it's not likely you're going to go collect it, depending on the amount.
Okay, so in that case, it will be lost for the city. So, I hate to say this, I think, is that something that we should consider then? And it's not necessarily about manager dissents, but any manager who then works for the city and, let's say, the city covers the manager's education this term, and at the end of the term or the end of the quarter, the manager says, I'm leaving, bye. After the city has just covered your, your educational, expenses. So is there, since the city may not
Yeah,
go, what does the city do?
yeah.
How do you get that back? Should there be language in the contract that then addresses that somehow?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just asking.
The education benefit is current that any employee of the city would receive is listed under the PACT policy booklet, section F, education benefit.
Okay.
The answer to your question, if the employee receives this benefit and then leaves employment with the city for any reason within a 1-year period from the date of course completion, the employee will be required to refund the city for all education funds
Okay,
provided within the last 12 months.
Okay.
So I mean, in that case, it's
Under D, is it?
Eh,
No, sorry.
that's under F,
F, okay.
F5.
Okay.
But in that case, the PACT policies just state for any reason, if the employee is to be terminated. So that actually, I mean, if the policy, like, if it's in line with the PACT policy, I don't know.
guess so.
Gotcha.
I just, sorry.
Yeah, Commissioner Sklitsky.
If it is only for the last 12 months worth of credit hours or expenses, are we willing to accept that training our staff is just a cost of doing business and willing to risk possibly losing out of 12 months?
I train my staff and
Yeah,
I pay for their training.
yeah.
And if they leave a month after their training is finished, then they're better trained for what they're going to do out in the world.
I think it is important that we ask these questions and evaluate, because again, like, these are policies that apply, like, again, like in this case, we have started talking about a policy that does apply to staff members at large. So like, we as a city, as a commission, require employees to, if they do receive it, like, to pay that back. So maybe that's something that we should look in the future for approving PACT policies. And that's a ridiculous thing to consider. Why would we ask anyone to pay someone money back for training? That's every employee at the city. So if that's something we could look at as a policy, just generally speaking, if that's the feeling there. But again, it is important that we ask these questions all the same.
But I also think that it's a response to, part of the change that is being, addressed. The language change that is being addressed, so I don't see the harm in addressing that. I'd rather know than not know and then worry later on that, oh, we didn't look at this. Okay.
Gotcha. All right. At this time, again, like, the original intent was, again, the conversation with the attorney, if there was any legal questions. But again, as I appreciate Attorney Homier pointing out, this really veers more into contract negotiation versus actual legal questions. So I think that we have a lot of feedback here, and I'd appreciate hearing any comments in a moment from Manager DeSense, if interested. But a lot of the feedback could be written up at this point, and time in the evening, and then brought back to members of the commission for additional review or comments. There is Manager DeSense, though, if there's any feedback on the conversation, it is a negotiation in essence, so.
I'll just highlight a couple of things. One, the request for wage, which was brought forward, was brought with a lot of information on what other city managers are making. And so I know I'd frame that up for the city commission before offering that. Just looking at a very flat rate, the city has, in terms of the median income for cities of the size, fallen behind based on the data that I had provided. As far as the severance provisions in there, I just want to highlight that the language that was brought forward is reflective of the International City Manager Association standard model contract language. And so I brought that forward because that is industry standard. And I know that city commission, at least some of the city commissioners, had expressed concerns about that. This job is political. I've had two very good friends in this industry dismissed on 4-3 votes here already at the start of this year. And it's just for political reasons. They went into a meeting, expecting to have a job at the end of the meeting, and they don't have a job anymore. And there was no comment or anything like that. That's just the very nature of the business. This is why severance packages are very common in city management. And the more politically volatile, typically the higher the severance package. I know of at least one in the state of Michigan, and I think two, I'd have to go look back on the other ones, which have gone to 24 months due to that political volatility. And I think I'd expressed concerns about political volatility here as well. So.
Gotcha.
Hopefully we address some of those concerns for you here tonight.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. I think that's part of the problem is I get along so very well with everyone here. You guys have given me great feedback. As you said, my review was awesome. It was also pointed out by the mayor that we got 5 members up for election this year too. And so that's part of the issue with it too, is that we have a great working relationship, all of us. But that doesn't mean that, my bosses don't change over in another 12 months here and it could go the other way. And as you had pointed out, Commissioner, that's part of the problem with city managers. We come to a community, we invest in the community, we buy a house in the community. That's something typically you have to do. It's not as easy swapping this job for other jobs because of that. So, right.
Gotcha. Okay. With that, if members of the commission are accepting of it, I will write up, again, compile some of the feedback that we received, the different timeframe proposals, and comfort levels for interest, not interest, salary increase based off of a percentage, yes. I work in loans. I see a percentage sign and it's what interest are we paying? So, in any case, if members of the commission are comfortable with that, we could end the discussion at this time and move on to the next agenda item.
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing general acclamation to that, let me find the schedule for the agenda for the evening.
Announcements.
Thank you. Announcements on city-related issues and new business. Starting with Commissioner Alsager.
I just wanted to say, when the trails are clear, I've really enjoyed taking walks this winter. I think the last one was the loop around Island Park. It's very nice.
Okay. Let's see. Vice Mayor Ake.
Hey, MLK week,
Make sure.
is coming up at CMU. January 19th is Martin Luther King's Day, but CMU also has all sorts of events. So please, and the events are free and open to to residents. It's it's a week of peace, so, we think peace. And I think it's an opportunity to go to CMU, support the students, support what CMU is doing, build a relationship with the university so that, construct bridges, basically, right? So I just want to encourage people to, to attend the events.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Let's see, Commissioner Perschbacher.
Well, first I'd like to say, Happy New Year to everyone. This is 2026. So far this year, I have only written 2026. I'm very proud of myself on everything. I would like to remind us that the 19th of this month is Martin Luther King's Jr. Day, and we do celebrate it at Central. But at the Mount Pleasant High School, they also celebrate Peacemaker Awards. It is at the high school in the auditorium or in the gym area. Everyone is invited. The children have been chosen throughout the year of things that they have done to promote peace. And they are given a reward, and it is a wonderful event. I try to go every year. So far I have not missed one. I'm hoping to still make it this year as well. And I would just like to remind people that I know we have had some storms and we've had some brush that has accumulated in yards. Not as much as people thought there was, though there are some still out there. Just be aware that we do have like the wood chipping service for the city. You can also, if you have a pickup truck, you can throw it in the back of your pickup truck and take it to the recycling center just north of town, and they take that brush as well. Other than that, I hope that everyone has hopefully a peaceful year and that things will go well this year.
Commissioner Rollins.
I have nothing at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Sklitsky.
Watch your footing out there with those pure Michigan ice storms, and remember that we have more in common with one another than we have differences.
Yeah, thank you. For myself, I'd just like to make the quick note to thank my fellow commissioners for their support and continued trust to serve as mayor of the city. It's been an honor this past year, and I'm excited to continue in this role and the work ahead of us this year. Just a few notes and everything to my fellow commissioners. Some work carried over from the previous year also for ourselves that weren't necessarily parts of goals and objectives, but we had conversations considering fire code updates. There's the intention to have a work session on a tenants' rights committee coming up. Let's see, we had a longer discussion on the development of a chicken ordinance, and then I think we ran up against the intern who was spearheading that. Unfortunately, his term ended, so we may consider returning to that also. Let's see, and then we also were looking for a in Q1 for staff to present a draft policy on proclamations, as we had run into some controversy, some disagreements over a specific proclamation that was issued this previous year. So having a policy in place that just enumerates the procedure for that, and actually would, I think, has the potential to encourage resident groups to engage with that, to bring forward more things that we could seek recognition for and of achievement within the community. On that note, I would like to make it known to my fellow commissioners that regarding the designation of the city as a international city of peace. I hear the desire, the desire at that time of, there wasn't as much discussion as would have been appreciated. There wasn't as much information given, but I would like, it's my intention later this year to bring forward a resolution to members of the commission alongside more material and support for that. I think it is the International Cities for Peace, I think, is an incredible program as I have read more about it and continue to educate myself on it. And I think it is a important thing, a designation that for our city to celebrate our long history of peacemaking and peace recognition, as enumerated by the proclamation this evening and the events coming up in this month, recognizing Martin Luther King Jr. Day. There's a lot of different elements of peacemaking and recognition, and I'd like to bring forward more information on that to the members of the commission and like to gain their support for that. So that's one of my resolutions for the year. My personal resolutions for the year anyway. But in any case, that's all I have at the moment, and which will bring us into, let's see, public comment on agenda and non-agenda items. If you are a member of the public and would like to give comments on agenda or non-agenda items, please step up to the microphone. Please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 5 minutes with which to speak.
Hello, my name is Frances Lickman, 1212 Toma Drive. I'm here to comment on the proposed rezoning of the southwest corner of Broomfield and Crawford. Regarding process, the consultants hired by the city of Mount Pleasant recommended that first, city commissioners come to an agreement about rezoning and then forward your decision to the Planning Commission. At your last work session, it wasn't clear whether you plan to follow the consultant's advice. I encourage you to do so. Otherwise, you are agreeing by default to the most recent rezoning proposal. And that plan has glaring deficiencies. You have all expressed interest in single-family homes on the parcel. The current plan does not reflect that. It is possible that not a single home will be built on the 157 acres. Nowhere in the proposed plan is there zoning dedicated to strictly to single-family homes and large lot duplexes, CD3 or CD3L. There are places for single-family homes. Consider the parcel where West Point Village is located. The current plan zones that entire parcel CD4 residential restriction, permitting various housing types. You could rezone part of that parcel for single-family homes, CD3. The developer indicated that he does not plan to use all the vacant land to build apartments. Another potential location for single-family homes is adjacent to the civic zone. The private school has requested 5 fewer acres than they did in 2024. Those 5 acres can be zoned for single-family homes, CD3. A second shortcoming of the current plan is the rezoning of the 12.5-acre parcel abutting the southwest corner. Rezoning that parcel should be independent of dissolving the PRD agreement. Those 12.5 acres fall outside the scope of the agreement. And you have hardly talked about those 12.5 acres. The current zoning proposal designates them CD4, allowing residential, commercial, businesses, and some light industrial. The developer wants 12.5 acres of commercial use. A 2005 traffic study indicates that to safely and efficiently accommodate a 12.5-acre commercial development, Broomfield Road would need to be widened to 5 lanes at that intersection, and northbound Crawford Road would need 3 approach lanes. As you've acknowledged, Mount Pleasant needs housing. Single-family housing, low-income housing, missing middle housing. Those 12.5 acres can support the housing our city needs. If any of what I've said resonates with you, try to reach a consensus on rezoning. Then submit your decision to the Planning Commission. Include zoning for single-family homes somewhere on the parcel, CD3. Set aside a decision about the 12.5-acre parcel until after you've terminated the PRD agreement and rezoned the parcels that it affects. That'll provide you a window to consider options for the 12.5 acres.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I assure you, we did not know that each other was going to do this. Hello, good evening. Please don't groan. I'm Martha Notstein, 1361 South Crawford Street. And I'm referring to the 5 lots at the southwest corner of the city also. I have read in the November City Commission minutes that the only thing I have said here is I'm against the rezoning, and that is such an untrue representation. What I have been against was giving a non-public, untaxed private school 30 acres for building an untaxable enterprise in 2024. 30 acres is larger than the individual public elementary school properties in Mount Pleasant. For 40 years, the PRD was meant to be homes, more years than its present owner has had it. He knew what the property was meant for, and it was not a golf course. This empty property changing from a PRD into a CD residential zoning for homes is a good solution. But that a nonprofit organization with a zero tax base, and we've talked about tax bases here tonight, is the wrong solution and forgets future home sites. Mount Pleasant residents would all benefit from more taxable houses, since we already have high taxes and few empty spaces within our city limits for building homes. And that is all needed for future residents. The planned school has a choice of so much empty space in the township and would still have a Mount Pleasant address. The city does not have that privilege to build in the township. We are landlocked, and our last few acres for a no tax based building is reckless and so selfish. Looking at this poster, in 2024, much was said of a civic zone in this acreage. I don't know if that's still something, but I look at this representation and I see approximately 55 acres in this property given to CMU by the same person who is giving away the school acreage. Isn't CMU an educational institution and an obvious civic purpose? I feel the city has no more responsibility towards civic zone when such a large percentage of the empty property is already CMU owned. I don't understand the difficulty of deciding if a nonprofit builds a zero tax-based structure should have precedence or should have precedence over home building sites in the very last few acres of this part of the city that is zoned residential. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is the CMU part, and this is the 31 acres.
Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to give public comment at this time? Seen anyone? Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak? Please use the raise hand feature to indicate so. Were there any emails that we'd received? Okay, are there any raised hands? Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Teresa Turner. I'm at 608 South Kenny Avenue. But tonight I'm speaking on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Mount Pleasant area. For over 20 years, the nonprofit, nonpartisan League of Women Voters in Mount Pleasant area held candidate forums in the Mount Pleasant City Hall Commission Chamber. During these moderated forums, candidates addressed the public and the public had an opportunity to question candidates. The League's format and trained moderators successfully delivered nonpartisan information to local voters. The League would again like to use City Hall for candidate forums. The commission chamber is an ideal setting for voter forums. The available technology allows events to not only be broadcast in real time, but also to be recorded for those who cannot attend in person. In addition, prior to November of 2022, our league, as well as other nonprofits, were able to request use of available City Hall meeting rooms. As you might know, meeting space in the area is quite limited, especially since the county building is no longer available. The League of Women Voters, Mount Pleasant area, respectfully ask the commission to review the current policy regarding the use of this taxpayer-funded facility and return to the pre-2022 policy of sharing City Hall space with local nonprofit organizations. We are a community after all. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other raised hands on Zoom? Not seeing anyone rushing up to the podium at this time, I am going to go ahead and close public comments on agenda and non-agenda items. We have a closed session this evening, so I will call a 10-minute recess to clear the well and give us a bit of a break. We are going to move into well, in a moment, I will make a motion to go into closed session. So let me start with that then, yeah. Let's see. I move to go into closed session pursuant to NCL 15.2681E to consult with the city attorney regarding trial or settlement strategy in connection with Mission Street Holdings LLC versus City of Mount Pleasant, case number 25-21059, because discussion in public would have a detrimental financial effect on the city's litigating or settlement position.
Seconded.
Okay, motion made by myself, seconded by Commissioner Skalitsky. Going into closed session, I believe we need the call of a roll call. So Commissioner, Clerk Schmelzer, please call the roll.
Commissioner Skalitsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins.
Yes.
Commissioner Alsager,
Yes.
Commissioner Perschebacker,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eke,
Yes.
Mayor Wingard.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We're going to go into closed session. We will resume at 9:43.
Yeah, we're going to recess.
Going in
Yes,
recess.
yes.
Yeah, and you said we're going into closed session. We're going to recess.
We're going
We-
to recess.
Second.
It's a brand new year.
I think it occurred.